it looks like the YouTube stream is up. Yay! I barely speak English, so I definitely don't know. But that's alright. If anybody is interested in joining the community puzzle, I highly encourage you to join. You can go to my beacons link and scroll until you see the button that says community puzzle. It'll be under other links. Hello. Hello to all of my beautiful fishies, my wonderful, wonderful fishies. I hope that you slept well last night. I hope that today, being a Friday, has given you a nice, big, comfy hug in preparation for the weekend. Interesting format. Thank you. We're going to resume reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and I hope that you will join me. Get all cozy, snuggled up in your blankets, and listen to the reading. I do have to let someone know that TikTok is working. Congratulations, Neo Metal Sonic, on not only redeeming first in chat, but on passing majority of your exams. I'm so sorry. I tried to mute for that, but it looks like my GoXLR completely restarted all of my... I am so sorry for coughing in your ears. I try not to. Well, even if English is not your first language, I hope that you can get all comfy for our reading. If you are not already in the Discord server, I highly recommend joining the Discord server. You can choose your notifications, so I'm never bothering you unnecessarily. One comment. Yeah, congratulations on passing. And I just die, you know, on the spot. It's casual, it's normal. Oh, you're not the only one. We have a lot of individuals in here whose first language is not English, so we tend to be a good space for everyone. A lot of people... We've had some very fun streams before, trying to teach me English and other languages. I love those streams. I really do. And I do wish that I was fluent in more than just English. Speaking of which, I have gotten day 600 of my Duolingo streak. So, am I fluent in Japanese yet? No, not at all. You've got this. I believe in you. Now, for a show of chat messages, who is ready for the reading to begin? Kisses for 600 days? That's a lot of kisses. Where is... I'm looking for one of my tools. Where is the lip sync animation? Yeah. There we go. Okay. And one moment as I get this fixed. I've been having a lot of tech issues recently that unfortunately I'm just not able to magically fix them. So it's the best that I can do. And then E. And then U. And then I. And if this is your first time here, welcome to Sanctuary. In this space, I read to you, I will do ASMR, and I will sing you lullabies to sleep. You can call me Steph. Voodoo, it's great to see you again. Put a 1 in chat if you're ready for me to begin reading. Wow. My words are already on point today. Hi, Will. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Mama. Maybe we'll have to do another ASMR stream sometime where we do all the mouth pops, because you guys really seem to like that. Hi, Will. Hi, Chukikyo. All of a sudden lock in. I hope you're ready to begin reading. I'm doing the reading here,
Excuse me?
not you.
Mommy? Sorry. Mommy? Sorry.
Mommy? Sorry. Mommy? Sorry.
Mommy?
Alejandro, you're so sweet. Thank you. Hi, Chris. Palito de pescado. Hello, anxiety. Thank you guys so much for being here. Okay. Okay. Before we get too out of line, we're gonna start reading. So, buckle up and get all cozy and lay your head on your pillow. Chapter 7. The Journey to the Great Oz. They were obliged to camp out that night under a large tree in the forest, for there were no houses near. The tree made a good, thick covering to protect them from the dew, and the Tin Woodman chopped a great pile of wood with his axe, and Dorothy built a splendid fire that warmed her and made her feel less lonely. She and Toto ate the last of their bread, and now she did not know what they would do for breakfast. "If you wish," said the lion, I will go into the forest and kill a deer for you. You can roast it by the fire, since your tastes are so peculiar that you prefer cooked food, and then you will have a very good breakfast. Please, don't. Don't. Please, don't, begged the Tin Woodman. I should certainly weep if you killed a poor deer, and then my jaws would rust again. But the lion went away into the forest and found his own supper, and no one ever knew what it was, for he didn't mention it. And the Scarecrow found a tree full of nuts and filled Dorothy's basket with them, so that she would not be hungry for a long time. She thought this was very kind and thoughtful of the Scarecrow, but she laughed heartily at the awkward way in which the poor creature picked up the nuts. His padded hands were so clumsy, and the nuts were so small that he dropped almost as many as he put in the basket. But the Scarecrow did not mind how long it took him to fill the basket, for it enabled him to keep away from the fire, as he feared a spark might get into his straw and burn him up. So he kept a distance away from the flames, and only came near to cover Dorothy with dry leaves when she lay down to sleep. These kept her very snug and warm, and she slept soundly until the morning. When it was daylight, the girl bathed her face in a little rippling brook, and soon after, they all started toward the Emerald City. This was to be an eventful day for the travelers. They had hardly been walking an hour when they saw before them a great ditch that crossed the road and divided the forest as far as they could see on either side. It was a very wide ditch, and when they crept up to the edge and looked into it, they could see it was also very deep, and there were many big, jagged rocks at the bottom. The sides were so steep that none of them could climb down, and for a moment it seemed that their journey must end.
What shall we do?
Asked Dorothy despairingly. I haven't the faintest idea, said the Tin Woodman, and the lion shook his shaggy mane and looked thoughtful. But the Scarecrow said, We cannot fly, that is certain. Neither can we climb down into this great ditch. Therefore, if we cannot jump over it, we must stop where we are. I think I could jump over it, said the Cowardly Lion, after measuring the distance carefully in his mind. Then we are all right, answered the Scarecrow, for you can carry us all over your back, one at a time. Well, I'll try it, said the lion. Who will go first? I will, declared the Scarecrow. For if you found that you could not jump over the gulf, Dorothy would be killed, or the Tin Woodman badly dented on the rocks below. But if I am on your back, it will not matter for much, for the fall would not hurt me at all. I'm terribly afraid of falling myself, said the Cowardly Lion. But I suppose there is nothing to do but try it. So get on my back, and we will make an attempt. The Scarecrow sat upon the lion's back, and the big beast walked to the edge of the gulf and crouched down.
"Why don't you run and jump?"
Scared, asked the Scarecrow.
"Because that isn't the way the lions do things,"
he replied. Then, giving a great spring, he shot through the air and landed safely on the other side. They were all greatly pleased to see how easily he did it. And after the Scarecrow had got down from his back, the lion sprang across the ditch again. Hi, Chad. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that everyone coming in will bundle up in their blankets and get all comfortable for a nice, peaceful sleep. And thank you so much for letting me read to you tonight. And Lugal, thank you so much for 29 months. I'm trying to do the finger hearts. It's not working. Here we go. I tried to do a heart. I can't do it. And thank you, TikTok, for being here. Thank you for listening to my voice. Dorothy thought she would go next, so she took Toto in her arms and climbed on the lion's back, holding tightly to his mane with one hand. The next moment, it seemed as if she were flying through the air, and then, before she had time to think about it, she was safe on the other side. The lion went back a third time and got the Tin Woodman, and then they all sat down for a few moments to give the beast a chance to rest, for his great leaps had made his breath short, and he panted like a big dog that has been running too long. They found the forest very thick on this side, and it looked dark and gloomy. After the lion had rested, they started along the road of yellow brick, silently wondering, each in his own mind, if ever they would come to the end of the woods and reach the bright sunshine again. To add to their discomfort, they soon heard strange noises in the depths of the forest, and the lion whispered to them that it was in this part of the country that the Kalidas lived. Is that how you pronounce that? If anybody is interested in becoming a cute little fishy in the background, you absolutely can if you join us and send a chat message on Twitch. If you are interested in becoming a fish. Is it Kalida? How does one pronounce this? There is no guidance on the internet for how to pronounce this. Oh well. I don't think I can read Dr. Seuss because they are copywritten, but a lot of people still ask. What are the Kalidas? Asked the girl.
"They are monstrous beasts, with bodies like bears and heads like tigers,"
replied the lion.
"And with claws so long and sharp that they could tear me into two, as easily as I could kill Toto. I'm terribly afraid of the Kalidas."
"I'm not surprised that you are," returned Dorothy. They must be dreadful beasts. The lion was about to reply when suddenly they came to another gulf across the road. But this one was so broad and deep that the lion knew at once he could not leap across it. So they sat down to consider what they should do, and after serious thought, the Scarecrow said,
"Here is a great tree, standing close to the ditch. If the Tin Woodman can chop it down so that it will fall to the other side, we can walk across it easily." "This is a first-rate idea,"
said the lion.
"One would almost suspect you had brains in your head instead of straw."
The woodman set to work at once, and so sharp was his axe that the tree was soon chopped nearly through. Then the lion put his strong front legs against the tree and pushed with all his might. And slowly the big tree tipped and fell with a crash across the ditch, with its top branches on the other side. They had just started to cross this queer bridge when a sharp growl made them look up, and to their horror they saw running toward them 2 great beasts with bodies like bears and heads like lions. No. And heads like tigers.
"They're the Kalidas,"
said the Cowardly Lion, beginning to tremble.
"Quick,"
cried the Scarecrow.
"Let us cross over."
So Dorothy went first, holding Toto in her arms. The Tin Woodman followed, and the Scarecrow came next. The lion, although he was certainly afraid, turned to face the Kalidas, and then he gave so loud and terrible a roar that Dorothy screamed, and the Scarecrow fell over backward, while even the fierce beasts stopped short and looked at him in surprise. But, seeing they were bigger than the lion, and remembering that there were 2 of them and only 1 of him, the Kalidas again rushed forward, and the lion crossed over the tree and turned to see what they would do next. Without stopping an instant, the fierce beasts also began to cross the tree. And the lion said to Dorothy,
"We are lost, for they will surely tear us to pieces with their sharp claws. But stand close behind me, and I will fight them as long as I am alive." "Wait a minute,"
called the Scarecrow. He had been thinking what was best to be done, and now he asked the woodman to chop away the end of the tree that rested on their side of the ditch. The Tin Woodman began to use his axe at once, and, just as the 2 Kalidas were nearly across, the tree fell with a great crash into the gulf, carrying the ugly, snarling brutes with it. And both were dashed to pieces on the sharp rocks at the bottom.
"Well,"
said the Cowardly Lion, drawing a long breath of relief,
"I see we are going to live a little while longer, and I'm glad of it, for it must be a very uncomfortable thing not to be alive. Those creatures frighten me so badly that my heart is beating it. Ah, said the Tin Woodman sadly. "I wish I had a heart to beat." This adventure made the travelers more anxious than ever to get out of the forest, and they walked so fast that Dorothy became tired and had to ride on the lion's back. To their great joy, the trees became thinner the farther they advanced, and in the afternoon they suddenly came upon a broad river flowing swiftly just before them. On the other side of the water, they could see the road of yellow brick running through a beautiful country, with green meadows dotted with bright flowers, and all the road bordered with trees hanging full of delicious fruits. They were greatly pleased to see this delightful country before them. "Hello. Welcome, my new fishies. I hope that you're ready to wind down and relax for some reading. And I appreciate you so much for choosing to join me to help you to sleep or to help you just escape reality for a little bit. We are almost done with Chapter 7 of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and we will be rolling shortly into Chapter 8 as well. If you would like a fish in the background, join us on Twitch. You can send a chat message and become a fishy. You can also turn the lights on and off as well. I can also turn the lights on and off. I feel like this looks a little spooky though, so we'll leave the lights on. Actually, leaving the lights off might be better for the people sleeping, right? So their phone screen isn't so bright. Hi, Lizard. Hi, Dorina. Hi, Armin. Sleeping? Okay. I'll continue reading. Thank you so much for the gifts. I appreciate you. They were greatly pleased to see this delightful country before them. "How shall we cross the river?" asked Dorothy. "That is simply done," replied the Scarecrow. "The Tin Woodman must build us a raft so we can float to the other side." So, the woodman took his axe and began to chop down small trees to make a raft. And while he was busy at this, the Scarecrow found the riverbank a tree full of fine fruit. This pleased Dorothy, who had eaten nothing but nuts all day, and she made a hearty meal of the ripe fruit. But it takes time to make a raft, even when one is as industrious and untiring as the Tin Woodman. And when night came, the work was not done, so they found a cozy place under the trees where they slept well into morning. And Dorothy dreamed of the Emerald City. Thank you for the gift, thank you. And Dorothy dreamed of the Emerald City and of the good wizard Oz, who would soon send her back
to her own home again. Chapter 8. The Deadly Poppy Field. Our little party of travelers awakened the next morning refreshed and full of hope, and Dorothy breakfasted like a princess off peaches and plums from the trees beside the river. Behind them was the dark forest they had passed safely through, although they had suffered many discouragements. But before them was a lovely, sunny country that seemed to beckon them on to the Emerald City. To be sure, the broad river now cut them off from this beautiful land, but the raft was nearly done, and after the Tin Woodman had cut a few more logs and fastened them together with wooden pins, they were ready to start. Dorothy sat down in the middle of the raft and held Toto in her arms. When the Cowardly Lion stepped upon the raft, it tipped badly, for he was big and heavy. But the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman stood upon the other end to steady it, and they had long poles in their hands to push the raft through the water. They got along quite well at first, but when they reached the middle of the river, the swift current swept the raft downstream, farther and farther away from the road of yellow brick, and the water grew so deep that the long poles would not touch the bottom. "This is bad," said the Tin Woodman, "for if we cannot get to the land, we shall be carried into the country of the Wicked Witch of the West, and she will enchant us and make us her slaves." "And then I should get no brains," said the Scarecrow. "And I should get no courage," said the Cowardly Lion. "And I should get no heart," said the Tin Woodman. "And I should never go back to Kansas," said Dorothy. "We must certainly get to the Emerald City if we can," the Scarecrow continued, and he pushed so hard on his long pole that it stuck fast in the mud at the bottom of the river. Then, before he could pull it out again or let go, the raft was swept away, and the poor Scarecrow was left clinging to the pole in the middle of the river. "Goodbye," he called after them, and then they were very sorry to leave him. Indeed, the Tin Woodman began to cry, but fortunately remembered that he might rust, and so dried his tears on Dorothy's apron. Of course, this was a bad thing for the Scarecrow. "Hi, Michael, welcome. Make yourself comfy, cozy, and at home. And if you are headed to sleep, then I wish you wonderful dreams. And if you're just here to relax, I thank you so much for choosing to relax with me." Hello, Autumane. Thank you for the gifts. It's very good to see you again. Of course, this was a bad thing for the Scarecrow. "I am now worse off than when I first met Dorothy," he thought. "Then I was stuck on a pole in a cornfield where I could make believe scare the crows, at any rate.
But surely there is no use for a scarecrow stuck on a pole in the middle of a river. I'm afraid I shall never have any brains after all.
Down the stream, the raft floated, and the poor scarecrow was left far behind. Then the lion said,
Something must be done to save us. I think I can swim to the shore and pull the raft after me, but if you will only hold fast to the tip of my tail.
So he sprang into the water, and the Tin Woodman caught fast hold of his tail. Then the lion began to swim with all his might toward the shore. It was all hard work, although he was so big. But by and by they were drawn out of the current, and then Dorothy took the Tin Woodman's long pole and helped push the raft to land. Thank you for the gifts. I'm glad you're enjoying. They were all tired out when they reached the shore at last and stepped off upon the pretty green grass, and they also knew that the stream had carried them a long way past the road of yellow brick that led to the Emerald City.
What shall we do now?
Asked the Tin Woodman, as the lion lay down on the grass to let the sun dry him. We must get back to the road in some way, said Dorothy.
The best plan will be to walk along the riverbank until we come to the road again, remarked the lion.
So, when they were rested, Dorothy picked up her basket, and they started along the grassy bank to the road from which the river had carried them. It was a lovely country, with plenty of flowers and fruit trees and sunshine to cheer them. And had they not felt so sorry for the poor scarecrow, they could have been very happy. They walked along as fast they could, Dorothy only stopping once to pick a beautiful flower. And after a time, the Tin Woodman cried out, "Look!" Then they all looked at the river and saw the scarecrow perched upon his pole in the middle of the water, looking very lonely and sad. "What can we do to save him?" asked Dorothy. The lion and the woodman both shook their heads, for they did not know. So they sat down upon the bank and gazed wistfully at the scarecrow until a stork flew by, who, upon seeing them, stopped to rest at the water's edge. "Who are you and where are you going?" asked the stork. "I am Dorothy," answered the girl. "And these are my friends, the Tin Woodman and the Cowardly Lion, and we are going to the Emerald City." "This isn't the road," said the stork, as she twisted her long neck and looked sharply at the queer party. "I know it," returned Dorothy, "but we have lost the scarecrow and are wondering how we shall get him again." "Where is he?" asked the stork. "Over there, in the river," answered the little girl. "If he wasn't so big and heavy, I would get him for you," remarked the stork. "He isn't a bit heavy," Dorothy said eagerly. For he is stuffed with straw. And if you will bring him back to us, we shall thank you ever and ever so much.
Well, I will try,
said the stork.
but if I... But if I find he is too heavy to carry, I shall have to drop him into the river again.
So the big bird flew into the air and over the water till she came to the scarecrow, was perched upon his pole. Then the stork, with her great claws, grabbed the scarecrow by the arm and carried him up into the air and back to the bank, where Dorothy and the lion and the Tin Woodman and Toto were sitting. When the scarecrow found himself among his friends again, he was so happy that he hugged them all, even the lion and Toto, and as they walked along, he sang, Tol-de-ri-de-o. At every step, he felt so gay.
I was afraid I should have to stay in the river forever,
he said.
but the kind stork saved me, and if I ever get any brains, I shall find the stork again and do her some kindness in return. That's all right,
said the stork, who was flying alongside them. Beside them.
I always like to help anyone in trouble, but I must go now, for my babies are waiting in the nest for me. I hope you will find the Emerald City and that Oz will help you.
Thank you, replied Dorothy, and then the kind stork flew into the air and was soon out of sight. They walked along, listening to the singing of the brightly colored birds and looking at the lovely flowers which now become so thick that the ground was carpeted with them. There were big yellow and white and blue and purple blossoms, besides great clusters of scarlet poppies, which were so brilliant in color they almost dazzled Dorothy's eyes. Aren't they beautiful? The girl asked as she breathed in the spicy scent of the bright flowers.
I suppose so,
answered the scarecrow.
When I have brains, I shall probably like them better. If only I had a heart, I should love them, added the Tin Woodman. I always did like flowers, said the lion. They seem so helpless and frail, but there are none in the forest so bright as these.
Now they came upon more and more of the big scarlet poppies, and fewer of the other flowers. And soon they found themselves in the midst of a great meadow of poppies. Now it is well known that when there are many of these flowers together, their odor is so powerful that anyone who breathes it falls asleep. And if the sleeper is not carried away from the scent of the flowers, he sleeps on and on forever. But Dorothy did not know this, nor could she get away from the bright red flowers that were everywhere about. So presently her eyes grew heavy, and she felt she must sit down to rest and to sleep. But the Tin Woodman would not allow her to do this.
We must hurry and get to the road of yellow brick before dark, he said, and the Scarecrow agreed with him. So they kept walking on until Dorothy could stand no longer. Christian, we are reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. We must hurry and get... Damn it, I keep saying it wrong. We must hurry and get back to the road of the yellow brick before dark, he said, and the Scarecrow agreed with him. So they kept walking until Dorothy could stand no longer. Her eyes closed in spite of herself, and she forgot where she was, and fell among the poppies, fast asleep. What shall we do? Asked the Tin Woodman. If we leave her here, she will die, said the Lion. The smell of the flowers is killing us all. I myself can scarcely keep my eyes open, and the dog is already asleep. It was true. Toto had fallen down beside his little mistress, but the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman, not being made of flesh, were not troubled by the scent of flowers. Run fast, said the Scarecrow to the Lion, and get out of this deadly flower bed as fast as you can. We will bring the little girl with us, but if you shall fall asleep, you are too big to be carried. So the Lion aroused himself and bounded forward as fast as he could go. In a moment, he was out of sight. Let us make a chair with our hands and carry her, said the Scarecrow. So they picked up Toto and put the dog in Dorothy's lap, and then they made a chair with their hands for the seat, and their arms for the arms, and carried the sleeping girl between them through the flowers. On and on they walked, and it seemed that the great carpet of deadly flowers that surrounded them would never end. They followed the bend of the river, and at last came upon their friend the Lion, who was fast asleep among the poppies. The flowers had been too strong for the huge beast, and he had given up at last, and fallen only a short distance from the end of the poppy bed, where the sweet grass spread in beautiful green fields before them. We can do nothing for him, said the Tin Woodman sadly, for he is too heavy to lift. We must leave him here to sleep on forever, and perhaps he will dream that he has found courage at last. I'm sorry, said the Scarecrow. The Lion was a very good comrade for one so cowardly. But let us go on. They carried the sleeping girl to a pretty spot beside the river, far enough from the poppy field to prevent her breathing any more of the poison of the flowers. And here they laid her gently on the soft grass and waited for the fresh breeze to waken her. That is the end of chapter 8. Welcome to all of our wonderful TikTok fishies. I hope that you had a lovely day today, and if you haven't, let's brush off those worries. Let's brush off the stress from your shoulders
And let's ease into some relaxation and some peaceful reading. I am reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And if you are here to go to sleep, snuggle up in your blanket, all nice and toasty warm, and you can put your volume down however much you need it to be. I promise I won't yell, I won't scream. I'll try not to cough in your ears. Whether you are listening from your phone, from your computer, or with headphones, whatever is most comfortable for you. And let's take a deep breath. Hi Pro Self-Love, hi Khalil, hi Moyodongon, hello class, welcome to all of our fishies. If you would like to become a fish in the background, you can join us on Twitch chat. Hi Robert. Thank you, Atine, for the 5-stream streak. Thank you, It's Nook. Welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed the reading. There you go, Water Cat. Now you got a fishy too. Thank you for the hydrate, and my dear fishy, don't forget to take a sip of water as well. I will continue reading. Chapter 9. The Queen of the Field Mice.
We cannot be far from the road of the yellow brick now,
remarked the Scarecrow as he stood beside the girl.
For we have come nearly as far as the river carried us away.
The Tin Woodman was about to reply when he heard a low growl, and turning his head, which worked beautifully on hinges, he saw a strange beast come bounding over the grass toward them. It was, indeed, a great yellow wildcat, and the woodman thought it must be chasing something, for its ears were lying close to its head and its mouth was wide open, showing its 2 rows of ugly teeth, while its red eyes glowed like balls of fire. As it came nearer, the Tin Woodman saw that running before the beast was a little gray field mouse, and although he had no heart, he knew it was wrong for the wildcat to try to kill such a pretty, harmless creature. So, the woodman raised his axe, and as the wildcat ran by, he gave it a quick blow that cut the beast's head clean off from its body, and it rolled over at his feet in 2 pieces. The field mouse, now that it was freed from its enemy, stopped short, and coming slowly up to the woodman, it said in a squeaky little voice,
"Oh, thank you. Thank you so ever much for repaying my life."
"Don't speak of it, I beg of you," replied the woodman.
I have no heart, you know, so I am careful to help all those who may need a friend, even if it happens to be only a mouse.
Only a mouse!
cried the little animal indignantly.
Why, I am a queen! The queen of all the field mice!
Oh, indeed, said the woodman, making a bow.
Therefore, you have done a great deed, as well as a brave one in saving my life,
added the queen. At that moment, several mice were seen running up as fast as their little legs could carry them, and when they saw their queen, they exclaimed,
"Oh, Your Majesty, we thought you would be killed! How did you manage to escape the great wildcat?"
They all bowed so low to the little queen that they almost stood upon their heads. Hello, welcome to our fishies. Thank you for joining me today. Get cozy in your blankets, snuggle up. Lay back and relax. And either relax or go to sleep. We are reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. They all bowed so low to the little queen that they almost stood upon their heads. Where is my TikTok mod? There we go. Okay.
"This funny tin man,"
She answered.
"killed the wildcat and saved my life. So hereafter you must all serve him and obey his slightest wish." "We will!"
cried all the mice in a shrill chorus, and then they scampered in all directions, for Toto had awakened from his sleep, and seeing all these mice around him, he gave one bark of delight and jumped right into the middle of the group. Toto had always loved to chase mice when he lived in Kansas, and he saw no harm in it. But the Tin Woodman caught the dog in his arms and held him tight while he called to the mice, "Come back! Come back! Toto will not hurt you!" At this, the queen of the mice stuck her head out from underneath a clump of grass and asked, in a timid voice,
"Are you sure he will not bite us?"
"I will not let him," said the woodman, "so do not be afraid." One by one, the mice came creeping back, and Toto did not bark again, although he tried to get out of the woodman's arms, and would have bitten him had he not known very well he was made of tin. Finally, one of the biggest mice spoke.
"Is there anything we can do,"
It asked,
"to repay you for saving the life of our queen?"
Nothing that I know of," answered the woodman. But the scarecrow, who had been trying to think, but could not because his head was stuffed with straw, said quickly,
"Oh, yes, you can save our friend, the Cowardly Lion, who is asleep in the poppy bed.
A lion!
cried the little queen.
Why? He's going to eat us all up!
Oh, no, declared the Scarecrow. This lion is a coward.
Really?
Asked the mouse.
He says so himself,
Answered the Scarecrow.
and he would never hurt anyone who is our friend. If you will help us save him, I promise that he shall treat you all with kindness.
Very well.
Said the queen.
We trust you. What shall we do?
Are there many of these mice which call you queen and are willing to obey you?
Yes, there are thousands.
She replied.
Then send for them all to come here as soon as possible, and let each one bring a long piece of string.
The queen turned to the mice that attended her and told them to go at once and get all of her people. As soon as they heard her orders, they ran away in every direction as fast as possible.
Now,
Said the Scarecrow to the Tin Woodman,
you must go to those trees by the riverside and make a trunk that will carry the lion.
So the woodman went at once to the trees and began to work, and soon made a truck out of the limbs of trees, from which he chopped away all the leaves and branches. He fastened it together with wooden pegs and made the 4 wheels out of short pieces of a big tree trunk. So fast and so well did he work that by the time the mice began to arrive, the truck was all ready for them. We are reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I hope you are comfy and cozy and relaxed. And if you are headed off to sleep while you listen along, then please, I wish you the sweetest of dreams. So fast and so well did he work that by the time the mice began to arrive, the truck was all ready for them. They came from all directions, and there were thousands of them, big mice and little mice and middle-sized mice, and each one brought a piece of string in his mouth. It was about this time that Dorothy woke from her long sleep and opened her eyes. She was greatly astonished to find herself lying upon the grass with thousands of mice standing around and looking at her timidly. But the Scarecrow told her about everything, and turning to the dignified little mouse, he said,
Permit me to introduce you to Her Majesty, the Queen.
Dorothy nodded gravely, and the Queen made a curtsy, after which she became quite friendly with the little girl. The Scarecrow and the Woodman now began to fasten the mice to the truck, using the strings they had brought, One end of a string was tied around the neck of each mouse, and the other end to the truck. Of course, the truck was 1,000 times bigger than any of the mice who were to draw it. But when all the mice had been harnessed, they were able to pull it quite easily. Even the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman could sit on it, and they were drawn swiftly by their queer little horses to the place where the lion lay asleep. After a great deal of hard work, for the lion was heavy, they managed to get him up on the truck. Then the queen hurriedly gave her people the order to start, for she feared if the mice stayed among the poppies too long, they also would fall asleep. At first, the little creatures, many though they were, could hardly stir the heavily loaded truck. But the woodman and the scarecrow both pushed from behind, and they got along better. Soon, they rolled the lion out of the bed to the green fields, where he could breathe the sweet, fresh air again, instead of the poisonous scent of the flowers. Dorothy came to meet them and thanked the little mice warmly for saving her companion from death. She had grown so fond of the big lion, she was glad he had been rescued. Then, the mice were unharnessed from the truck and scampered away through the grass to their homes. The queen of the mice was the last to leave.
"If you ever need us again,"
she said,
"come out into the field and call. We shall hear you and come to your assistance. Goodbye."
"Goodbye," they all answered, and away the queen ran, while Dorothy held Toto tightly, lest he should run after and frighten her. After this, they sat down beside the lion until he should awaken, and the scarecrow brought Dorothy some fruit from a tree nearby, which she ate for dinner. And that was the end of chapter 9. Classe, I don't know what language you're speaking. I can only speak English. That's why TikTok is helpful. It will translate for me. Welcome to all of our fishies who are joining. I hope that you are enjoying the reading so far. I also forgot to post that. Let me make sure that is pinned to all of the streams. Hello. We have so many cuties in chat. Gotta, smoosh the face. Smoosh the face. I'm ready. wonder what... I don't know what that means. I only speak English. Let's continue with chapter 10. Can you believe it? We're already on chapter 10. Chapter 10. The Guardian of the Gate. It was some time before the Cowardly Lion awakened, for he had lain among the poppies a long while, and breathing in their deadly fragrance. But when he did open his eyes and roll off the trunk, he was very glad to find himself still alive.
I ran as fast as I could,
he said, sitting down and yawning.
But the flowers were too strong for me. How did you get me out?
Then they told him of the field mice, and how they had generously saved him from death. And the Cowardly Lion laughed and said,
I have always thought myself very big and terrible, yet such little things as flowers came near to killing me, and such small animals as mice have saved my life. How strange it all is. But, comrades, what shall we do now?
We must journey on until we find the road of yellow brick. We must journey on until we find the road of yellow brick again,
said Dorothy.
And then we can keep on to the Emerald City.
So, the lion being fully refreshed and feeling quite himself again, they all started upon the journey, greatly enjoying the walk through the soft, fresh grass. And it was not long before they reached the road of yellow brick and turned again toward the Emerald City, where the great Oz dwelt. The road was smooth and well paved now, and the country about was beautiful, so that the travelers rejoiced in leaving the forest far behind, and with it the many dangers they had met in its gloomy shades. Once more they could see fences built beside the road, but these were painted green, and when they came to a small house in which a farmer evidently lived, that also was painted green. They passed by several of these houses during the afternoon, and sometimes people came to the doors and looked at them as if they would like to ask questions. But no one came near them, nor spoke to them, because of the great lion, of which they were very much afraid. The people were all dressed in the clothing of a lovely emerald green color, and wore peaked hats like those of the Munchkins.
This must be the land of Oz,
said Dorothy.
And we are surely getting near the Emerald City.
Yes,
answered the Scarecrow.
Everything here is green, while in the country of Munchkins, blue was the favored color. But the people do not seem to be as friendly as the Munchkins. I'm afraid we shall be unable to find a place to pass the night.
I should like something to eat besides fruit,
said the girl.
And I'm sure Toto is nearly starved. Let us stop at the next house and talk to the people.
So, when they came to a good-sized farmhouse, Dorothy walked boldly up to the door and knocked. A woman opened it just far enough to look out and said, "What do you want, child? And why is that great lion with you?"
We wish to pass the night with you, if you would allow us,
answered Dorothy.
The lion is my friend and comrade, and we would not hurt you for the world.
Is he tame? Asked the woman, opening the door a little wider.
Oh, yes,
said the girl.
And he is a coward, and he is a great coward too. He will be more afraid of you than you are him.
Well, said the woman, after thinking it over and taking another peep at the lion. If that is the case, you may come in, and I will give you some supper and a place to sleep. So, they all entered the house, where they were, besides the woman. So they all entered the house, where there were, besides the woman, 2 children and a man. The man had hurt his leg and was lying on the couch in the corner. They seemed greatly surprised to see so strange a company, and while the woman was busy laying the table, the man asked, "Where are all you going?"
To the Emerald City,
Dorothy said.
To see the Great Oz.
"Oh, indeed!" exclaimed the man. "Are you sure that Oz will see you?"
Why not?
She replied. "Why, it is said that he never lets anyone come into his presence. I've been to the Emerald City many times, and it is a beautiful and wonderful place. But I've never been permitted to see the Great Oz, nor do I know of any living person who has seen him." "Does he never go out?" asked the Scarecrow. "Never. He sits day after day in the great throne room of his palace, and even those who wait upon him do not see him face to face."
What is he like?
asked the girl. "That is hard to tell," the man said thoughtfully. "You see, Oz is a great wizard, and can take on any form he wishes, so that some say he looks like a great bird, and some say he looks like an elephant, and some say he looks like a cat. To others, he appears as a beautiful fairy, or a brownie, or in any other form that pleases him. But who the real Oz is, when he is in his own form, no living person can tell."
That is very strange,
said Dorothy.
But we must try, in some way, to see him, or we shall have made our journey for nothing.
"Why do you wish to see the terrible Oz?" asked the man. "I want him to give me some brains," said the Scarecrow eagerly. "Oh, Oz could do that easily enough," declared the man. "He has more brains than he needs." "And I want him to give me a heart," said the Tin Woodman. "That will not trouble him," continued the man, "for Oz has a large collection of hearts of all sizes and shapes." "I want him to give me courage," said the Cowardly Lion. "Oz keeps a great pot of courage in his throne room," said the man, "which he has covered with a golden plate to keep it from running over. He will be glad to give you some."
And I want him to send me back to Kansas,
said Dorothy. "Where's Kansas?" asked the man. with surprise.
I don't know,
replied Dorothy sorrowfully.
but it is my home, and I'm sure it's somewhere.
Very likely. Well, Oz can do anything, so I suppose he will find Kansas for you. But first you must get to see him, and that will be a hard task, for the Great Wizard does not like to see anyone, and he usually has his own way. But what do you want?
He continued, speaking to Toto. Toto only wagged his tail, for, strange to say, he could not speak. The woman now called to them that supper was ready, so they gathered around the table, and Dorothy ate some delicious porridge and a dish of scrambled eggs and a plate of nice white bread, and enjoyed her meal. The lion ate some of the porridge but did not care for it, saying it was made from oats and oats were food for horses, not for lions. The Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman ate nothing at all. Toto ate a little of everything and was glad to get a good supper again. The woman now gave Dorothy a bed to sleep in, and Toto laid down beside her, while the lion guarded the door of her room so she might not be disturbed. The Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman stood up in the corner and kept quiet all night, although, of course, they could not sleep. Hi, Mads. Hi, Billingham. Hi, Unzipped. I hope you are enjoying the story and getting cozy. If you are here to be peaceful, if you are here to relax, if you're here to go to sleep. And I do apologize for our puzzlers. I totally forgot to hit the button to start the next puzzle. If you would like to join, the puzzle is just started. The next morning, as soon as the sun was up, they started on their way, and soon saw a beautiful green glow in the sky just before them.
That must be the Emerald City,
said Dorothy. As they walked on, the green glow became brighter and brighter, and it seemed that at last they were nearing the end of their travels. Yet it was afternoon before they came to the great wall that surrounded the city. It was high and thick and of a bright green color. In front of them, at the end of the road of yellow brick, was a big gate, all studded with emeralds that glittered so in the sun that even the painted eyes of the Scarecrow were dazzled by their brilliancy. There was a bell beside the gate, and Dorothy pushed the button and heard a silvery tinkle sound within. Then, the big gate swung slowly open, and they all passed through and found themselves in a high arched room, the walls of which glistened with countless emeralds. Before them stood a little man about the size as the Munchkins. He was clothed in all green, from his head to his feet, and even his skin was of a greenish tint. At his side was a large green box. When he saw Dorothy and her companions, the man asked,
What do you wish in the Emerald City?
We came here to see the Great Oz,
said Dorothy. The man was so surprised at this answer that he sat down to think it over.
It has been many years since anyone asked me to see Oz,
he said, shaking his head in perplexity.
He is powerful and terrible, and if you come on an idle or foolish errand to bother the wise reflections of the great wizard, he might be angry and destroy you all in an instant.
But it is not a foolish errand, nor an idle one, replied the Scarecrow. It is important, and we have been told that Oz is a good wizard.
So he is, said the man, and he rules the Emerald City wisely and well. But to those who are not honest, or who approach him from curiosity, he is most terrible, and few have ever dared ask to see his face. I am the guardian of the gates, and since you demand to see the Great Oz, I must take you to his palace. But first you must put on the spectacles.
Why?
Asked Dorothy.
Because if you do not wear the spectacles, the brightness and glory of the Emerald City would blind you. Even those who live in the city must wear spectacles night and day. They are all locked on, for Oz so ordered it when the city was first built, and I have the only key that will unlock them.
He opened the big box, and Dorothy saw that it was filled with spectacles of every size and shape. All of them had green glasses in them. The guardian of the gates found a pair that would fit Dorothy and put them over her eyes. There were 2 golden bands fastened to them that passed around the back of her head, where they were locked together by a little key that was at the end of the chain the guardian of the gates wore around his neck. When they were on, Dorothy could not take them off had she wished. But of course, she did not wish to be blinded by the glare of the Emerald City, so she said nothing. Then the Green Man fitted spectacles for the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman and the Lion, and even on little Toto, and all were locked fast with a key. Then the guardian of the gates put on his own glasses and told them he was ready to show them to the palace. Taking a big golden key from the peg on the wall, he opened another gate, and they all followed him through the portal into the streets of the Emerald City. Welcome to our fishies who are joining us. If you're here to relax, then I hope you can take a couple of deep breaths and relax. If you are here to nod off to sleep to my voice, I hope you have sweet dreams. We are reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and we will continue on chapter 11. If you are still awake, and you are still listening, and you are working on something in the background while you listen, please take a sip of water and stay hydrated. Chapter 11. The Wonderful City of Oz. Even with eyes protected by the green spectacles, Dorothy and her friends were at first dazzled by the brilliancy of the wonderful city. The streets were lined with beautiful houses all built of green marble and studded everywhere with sparkling emeralds. They walked over a pavement of the same green marble, and where the blocks were joined together were rows of emeralds set closely and glittering in the brightness of the sun. The window panes were of green glass. Even the sky above the city had a green tint, and the rays of the sun were green. There were many people, men, women, and children, walking about, and these were all dressed in green clothes and had greenish skins. They looked at Dorothy and her strangely assorted company with wondering eyes, and the children all ran away and hid behind their mothers when they saw the lion. But no one spoke to them. Many shops stood in the street, and Dorothy saw that everything in them was green. Green candy and green popcorn were offered for sale, as well as green shoes, green hats, and green clothes of all sorts. At one place, a man was selling green lemonade, and when the children bought it, Dorothy could see that they paid for it with green pennies. There seemed to be no horses or nor animals of any kind. The men carried things around in little green carts, which they pushed before them. Everyone seemed happy and contented and prosperous. The guardian of the gates led them through the streets until they came to a big building, exactly in the middle of the city, which was the Palace of Oz, the Great Wizard. There was a soldier before the door, dressed in a green uniform and wearing a long green beard.
"Here are strangers,"
said the guardian of the gates to him,
"and they demand to see the Great Oz." "Step inside,"
answered the soldier.
"and I will carry your message to him."
So they passed through the palace gates and were led into a big room with the green carpet and lovely green furniture set with emeralds. The soldier made them all wipe their feet upon a green mat before entering this room, and then, when they were seated, he said politely, "Please make yourselves comfortable while I go to the door of the throne room and tell Oz you are here." They had to wait a long time before the soldier returned. When, at last, he came back, Dorothy asked,
"Have you seen Oz?"
"Oh, No, returned the soldier. I have never seen him, but I spoke to him as he sat behind his screen and gave him your message. He said he will grant you an audience, if you so desire, but each one of you must enter his presence alone, and he will admit but one each day. Therefore, you must remain in the palace for several days. I will have you shown to rooms where you may rest in comfort after your journey.
Thank you, replied the girl. That is very kind of Oz. The soldier now blew upon a green whistle, and at once a young girl, dressed in a pretty silk gown, entered the room. She had lovely green hair and green eyes, and she bowed low before Dorothy as she said, "Follow me, and I will show you your room." So Dorothy said goodbye to all her friends except Toto, and taking the dog in her arms, followed the green girl through 7 passages and up 3 flights of stairs until they came to a room at the front of the palace. It was the sweetest little room in the world, with a soft, comfortable bed that had sheets of green silk and a green velvet counterpane. There was a tiny fountain in the middle of the room that shot a spray of green perfume in the air to fall back into a beautifully carved green marble basin. Beautiful green flowers stood in the windows, and there was a shelf with a row of little green books. When Dorothy had time to open these books, she found them full of queer green pictures that made her laugh. They were so funny. In a wardrobe were many green dresses made of silk and satin and velvet, and all of them fitted Dorothy exactly. "Make yourself perfectly at home," said the green girl, "and if you wish for anything, ring the bell. Oz will send for you tomorrow morning." She left Dorothy alone and went back to the others. These she also led to rooms, and each one of them found himself lodged in a very pleasant part of the palace. Of course, this politeness was wasted on the Scarecrow, for when he found himself alone in his room, he stood stupidly in one spot, just within the doorway, to wait till morning. It would not rest him to lie down, and he could not close his eyes. So he remained all night staring at a little spider which was weaving its web in the corner of the room, just as if it were not one of the most wonderful rooms in the world. The Tin Woodman lay down on his bed from force of habit, for he remembered when he was made of flesh, but not being able to sleep, he passed the night moving his joints up and down to make sure they kept in good working order. The lion would have preferred a bed of dried leaves in the forest, and did not like being shut up in a room, but he had too much sense to let this worry him, so he sprang upon the bed and rolled himself up like a cat and purred himself asleep in a minute. The next morning, After breakfast, the Green Maiden came to fetch Dorothy, and she dressed her in one of the prettiest gowns made of green brocaded satin. Dorothy put on a green silk apron and tied a green ribbon around Toto's neck, and they started for the throne room of the Great Oz. First, they came to a great hall in which were many ladies and gentlemen of the court, all dressed in rich costumes. These people had nothing to do but talk to each other, but they always came to wait outside the throne room every morning, although they were never permitted to see Oz. As Dorothy entered, they looked at her curiously, and one of them whispered, "Are you really going to look upon the face of Oz the Terrible?"
Of course,
answered the girl.
if he will see me.
"Oh, he will see you," said the soldier who had taken her message to the wizard. "Although he does not like to have people ask to see him. Indeed, at first he was angry and said I should send you back where you came from. Then he asked me what you looked like, and when I mentioned your silver shoes, he was very much interested. At last I told him about the mark upon your forehead, and he decided he would admit you into his presence." Just then, a bell rang, and the green girl said to Dorothy,
That is the signal. You must go into the throne room alone.
She opened the little door, and Dorothy walked boldly through and found herself in a wonderful place. It was a big, round room with a high arched roof, and the walls and ceiling and floor were covered with large emeralds set closely together. In the center of the roof was a great light, as bright as the sun, which made emeralds sparkle in a wonderful manner. But what interested Dorothy was the big throne of green marble that stood in the middle of the room. It was shaped like a chair and sparkled with gems, as did everything else. In the center of the chair was an enormous head. Without a body to support it, or any arms or legs whatsoever. There was no hair upon this head, but it had eyes and a nose and a mouth, and was much bigger than the head of the biggest giant. As Dorothy gazed upon this in wonder and fear, the eyes turned slowly and looked up at her sharply and steadily, and looked at her sharply and steadily. Then the mouth moved, and Dorothy heard a voice say, "I am Oz, the Great and Terrible. Who are you? And why do you seek me?" It was not such an awful voice as she had expected to come from the big head, so she took courage and answered,
I am Dorothy, the small and meek. I have come to you for help.
The eyes looked at her thoughtfully for a full minute. Then said the voice,
Where did you get those silver shoes?
I got them from the Wicked Witch of the East when my house fell on her and killed her, she replied.
Where did you get the mark upon your forehead? Continued the voice.
That is where the Good Witch of the North kissed me when she bade me goodbye and sent me to you, said the girl.
Again, the eyes looked at her sharply, and they saw she was telling the truth. Then Oz asked, What do you wish me to do?
Send me back to Kansas, where my Aunt Em and Uncle Henry are, she answered earnestly. I don't like your country, although it is so beautiful. And I am sure Aunt Em will be dreadfully worried over my being away for so long.
The eyes winked 3 times, and then they turned up to the ceiling and down to the floor and rolled around so queerly that they seemed to see every part of the room. And at last, they looked at Dorothy again. Why should I do this for you? Asked Oz.
Because you are strong and I am weak. Because you are a great wizard and I am only a little girl.
But you were strong enough to kill the Wicked Witch of the East, said Oz.
That just happened,
returned Dorothy simply.
I could not help it.
Well, said the head, I will give you my answer. You have no right to expect me to send you back to Kansas unless you do something for me in return. In this country, everyone must pay for everything he gets. If you wish me to use my magic power to send you home again, you must do something for me first. Help me, and I will help you.
What must I do? Asked the girl.
Kill the Wicked Witch of the West, answered Oz.
But I cannot!
Exclaimed Dorothy, greatly surprised. You killed the Witch of the East, and you wear the silver shoes which bear a powerful charm. There is now but one Wicked Witch left in all this land, and when you can tell me she is dead, I will send you back to Kansas, but not before.
The little girl began to weep. She was so much disappointed, and the eyes winked again and looked upon her anxiously, as if the great Oz felt that she could help him if she would. I've never killed anything willingly, she sobbed. Even if I wanted to, how could I kill the Wicked Witch? If you, who are great and terrible, cannot kill her yourself, how do you expect me to do it?
I do not know, said the head, but that is my answer. And until the Wicked Witch dies, you will not see your uncle and aunt again. Remember that the witch is wicked, tremendously wicked, and ought to be killed. Now go, and do not ask to see me again until you have done your task.
Sorrowfully, Dorothy left the throne room and went back to where the lion and the scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were waiting to hear what Oz had said to her.
There is no hope for me,
She said sadly.
for Oz will not send me home until I have killed the Wicked Witch of the West. And that I could never do.
Her friends were sorry, but could do nothing to help her. So Dorothy went to her own room and lay down on the bed and cried herself to sleep. The next morning, the soldier with green whiskers came to the scarecrow and said, "Come with me, for Oz has sent for you." So, the scarecrow followed him and was admitted into the great throne room, where he saw, sitting in the emerald throne, a most lovely lady. She was dressed in green silk gauze and wore upon her flowing green locks a crown of jewels. Growing from her shoulders were wings, gorgeous in color and so light that they fluttered if the slightest breath of air reached them. When the scarecrow had bowed as prettily as his straw stuffing would let him, before this beautiful creature, she looked upon him sweetly and said, "I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you, and why do you seek me?" Now, the scarecrow, who had expected to see the great head Dorothy had told him of, was much astonished, but he answered her bravely.
I am only a scarecrow, stuffed with straw. Therefore I have no brains, and I come to you, praying that you will put brains in my head instead of straw, so that I may become as much a man as any other in your dominions.
"Why should I do this for you?" asked the lady.
Because you are wise and powerful, and no one else can help me,"
answered the scarecrow. "I never grant favors without some return," said Oz. "But this much I will promise. If you will kill for me the Wicked Witch of the West, I will bestow upon you a great many brains. And such good brains that you will be the wisest man in all the land of Oz."
"I thought you asked Dorothy to kill the witch,"
said the scarecrow in surprise. "So I did. I don't care who kills her, but until she is dead, I will not grant your wish. Now go, and do not seek me again until you have earned the brains you so greatly desire." The scarecrow went sorrowfully back to his friends and told them what Oz had said, and Dorothy was surprised to find that the great wizard was not a head, as she had seen him, but a lovely lady.
"Oh, the same,"
said the scarecrow.
"She needs a heart as much as the Tin Woodman."
The next morning, the soldier with green whiskers came to the Tin Woodman and said, "Oz has sent for you. Follow me." So, the Tin Woodman followed him and came to the great throne room. He did not know whether he would find Oz, a lovely lady, or a head, but he hoped it would be the lovely lady.
for, he said to himself. If it is the head, I am sure I shall not be given a heart, since a head has no heart of its own and therefore cannot feel for me. But if it is the lovely lady, I shall beg hard for a heart, for all ladies themselves said to be kindly-hearted. But when the woodman entered the great throne room, he saw neither the head nor the lady. For Oz had taken the shape of a most terrible beast. It was nearly as big as an elephant, and the green throne seemed hardly strong enough to hold its weight. The beast had a head like that of a rhinoceros, only there were 5 eyes in its face. There were 5 long arms growing out of its body. And it also had 5 long, slim legs. Thick, woolly hair covered every part of it, and a more dreadful-looking monster could not be imagined. It was fortunate the Tin Woodman had no heart at the moment, for it would have beat loud and fast in terror. But being only tin, the woodman was not at all afraid, although he was much disappointed. I am Oz, the great and terrible, spoke the beast in a voice that was one great roar. Who are you, and why do you seek me? I am a woodman, and made of tin. Therefore I have no heart and cannot love. I pray you to give me a heart that I may be as other men are. Why should I do this? Demanded the beast. Because I ask it, and you alone can grant my request, answered the woodman. Oz gave a low growl at this, but said gruffly, If you indeed desire a heart, you must earn it. How? Asked the woodman. Help Dorothy to kill the Wicked Witch of the West, replied the beast. When the witch is dead, come to me, and I will then give you the biggest and kindest and most loving heart in all the land of Oz. So, the Tin Woodman was forced to return sorrowfully to his friends and tell them of the terrible beast he had seen. They all wondered greatly at the many forms the great wizard could take upon himself, and the lion said, If he is a beast when I go to see him, I shall roar my loudest, so frighten him that he will grant all I ask. And if he is a lovely lady, I shall pretend to spring upon her and so compel her to do my bidding. And if he is the great head, he will be at my mercy, for I will roll his head all about the room until he promises to give us what we desire. So, be of good cheer, my friends, for all will yet be well. The next morning, the soldier with the green whiskers led the lion to the great throne room and bade him enter the presence of Oz. The lion at once passed through the door, and glancing around saw, to his surprise, that before the throne was a ball of fire, so fierce and glowing he could scarcely bear to gaze upon it. His first thought was that Oz had accidentally caught fire and was burning up. But when he tried to go near, the heat was so intense that it singed his whiskers, and he crept back tremblingly to a spot nearer the door.
Then a low, quiet voice came from the ball of fire, and these were the words it spoke. I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you, and why do you seek me? The lion answered, I am a cowardly lion, afraid of everything. I came to you to beg that you give me courage, so that in reality I can become the king of beasts, as men call me. Why should I give you courage? Demanded Oz. Because of all wizards, you are the greatest, and alone have power to grant my request, answered the lion. The ball of fire burned fiercely for a time, and the voice said, Bring me proof that the wicked witch is dead, and that moment I will give you courage. But as long as the witch lives, you will remain a coward. The lion was angry at this speech, but could say nothing in reply, and while he stood silently gazing at the ball of fire, it became so furiously hot that he turned tail and rushed from the room. He was glad to find his friends waiting for him, and told them of his terrible interview with the wizard.
What shall we do now?
Asked Dorothy sadly.
There is only one thing we can do,
returned the lion.
and that is to go to the land of the Winkies, seek out the wicked witch, and destroy her.
But suppose we cannot,
said the girl.
Then I shall never have courage,
declared the lion.
and I shall never have brains,
added the scarecrow.
and I shall never have a heart.
Spoke the Tin Woodman.
and I shall never get to see Aunt Em and Uncle Henry,
said Dorothy, beginning to cry.
Be careful,
cried the green girl.
the tears will fall on your green silk gown and spot it.
So Dorothy dried her eyes and said,
I suppose we must try it. But I am sure I do not want to kill anybody, even to see Aunt Em again.
I will go with you, but I'm too much of a coward to kill the witch,
said the lion.
I will go too,
declared the scarecrow.
but I shall not be of much help to you. I am such a fool. I haven't the heart to harm even a witch,
remarked the Tin Woodman.
but if you go, I certainly shall go with you.
Therefore, it was decided to start upon their journey the next morning. And the woodman sharpened his axe on a green grindstone and had all his joints properly oiled. The scarecrow stuffed himself with fresh straw, and Dorothy put new paint on his eyes that he might see better. The green girl, who was very kind to them, filled Dorothy's basket with good things to eat, and fastened a little bell around Toto's neck with a green ribbon. They went to bed quite early and slept soundly until daylight, when they were awakened by the crowing of a green clock by the crowing of a green cock that lived in the backyard of the palace, and the cackling of a hen that had laid a green egg. And that is the end of chapter 11. I thank you guys so much for all of the gifts, and thank you for listening to me reading the story. I appreciate you all so much for being here. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to all of our Twitch subscribers. Thank you to all of our TikTok gifters. And if you would like to support me, subscribing helps, but so does donating as well. All perfectly available options and up to you, but also not a requirement at all. If you'd like unique ways to support, you can follow, you can chat, you can watch my YouTube videos. I have many available to you. You can subscribe, you can gift subscriptions, but also you can join the Discord server. We do have another ad coming up, by the way. And I know that we are at the 2-hour mark. But part of me is like, oh man, we're on chapter 12, which means we are 50% of the way through the story. Do you guys want me to keep going? Or are you tired and ready to go to sleep now? I'm sure we can find someone to raid. Someone to spread the love with. There are not too many people in You Want to Keep Going. I'm ready for another chapter. Yes, we do have ads. Well, if we are going to continue with one more chapter, I am going to step away to go to the bathroom and to clear up my throat and drink some water, okay? But I will be back. Thank you for the gift. Thank you so much. Thank you for the bits. If you are not familiar with our community puzzle, you can go to if you are watching on TikTok, you can go to the link in my profile, and under other links, you'll find the community puzzle where you can solve a puzzle while I am gone. And if you are in Twitch chat, all you have to do is say the word puzzle and you'll get the link. Hi, Mr. Shark. Thank you for the hydrate. Amores Eliza, thank you. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Don't fall asleep while I'm gone. Okay. I have returned, and I hope you are ready to continue reading. Put a 1 in chat if you're ready to continue story time. Put a 2 in chat if you're asleep. How can you be asleep? Are you sleep typing? Anxiety is 3. Anxiety is playing Dead by Daylight. Pro Self-Love is ready. Atine is ready. Amores is ready. Ghost is ready. Hi, Yoshi. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you made it home safe. Harukin is also ready. Okay. I wish I had some lip balm. I would love some tea. Some tea to go with our reading. Chapter 12. The Search for the Wicked Witch. The soldier with the green whiskers led them through the streets of the Emerald City until they reached the room where the guardian of the gates lived. This officer unlocked their spectacles to put them back in his great box. And then he politely opened the gate for our friends.
Which of these roads leads to the Wicked Witch of the West?
Asked Dorothy.
There is no road,
Answered the guardian of the gates.
no one ever wishes to go that way.
How, then, are we to find her?
Inquired the girl.
That will be easy,
Replied the man.
for when she knows you are in the country of the Winkies, she will find you and make you all her slaves.
Perhaps not, said the Scarecrow. For we mean to destroy her,
Oh, that is different.
said the guardian of the gates.
No one has ever destroyed her before. So naturally I thought she would make slaves of you, as she has of the rest. But take care, for she is wicked and fierce, and may not allow you to destroy her. Keep to the west, where the sun sets, and you cannot fail to find her.
They thanked him and bade him goodbye, and turned toward the west, walking over fields of soft grass, dotted here and there with daisies and buttercups. Dorothy still wore the pretty silk dress she had put on in the palace, but now, to her surprise, she found it was no longer green, but pure white. The ribbon around Toto's neck had also lost its green color and was as white as Dorothy's dress. The Emerald City was soon left far behind. As they advanced, the ground became rougher and hillier. For there were no farms nor houses in this country of the West, and the ground was untilled. In the afternoon, the sun shone hot in their faces, for there were no trees to offer them shade, so that before night, Dorothy and Toto and the lion were tired and lay down upon the grass and fell asleep, with the woodman and the Scarecrow keeping watch. Now, the Wicked Witch of the West had but one eye, Yet, that was as powerful as a telescope and could see anywhere. So as she sat in the door of her castle, she happened to look around and saw Dorothy lying asleep with her friends all about her. They were a long distance off, but the wicked witch was angry to find them in her country, so she blew upon a silver whistle that hung around her neck. At once, there came running to her from all directions a pack of great wolves. They had long legs and fierce eyes and sharp teeth. "Go to those people," said the witch, "and tear them to pieces."
Are you not going to make them your slaves?
Asked the leader of the wolves. "No," she answered. "One is of tin and one of straw. One is a girl and another a lion. None of them is fit to work, so you may tear them into small pieces." "Very well," said the wolf, and he dashed away at full speed, followed by the others. It was lucky the Scarecrow and Woodman were wide awake and heard the wolves coming.
"This is my fight,"
said the Woodman.
"So get behind me and I will meet them as they come."
He seized his axe, which he had made very sharp, and as the leader of the wolves came on to the Tin Woodman, he swung his arm and chopped the wolf's head from its body so that it immediately died. As soon as he could raise his axe, another wolf came up, and he also fell under the sharp edge of the Tin Woodman's weapon. There were 40 wolves, and 40 times a wolf was killed, so that at last they all lay dead in a heap before the Woodman. Then he put down his axe and sat beside the Scarecrow, who said, "It was a good fight, friend." They waited until Dorothy awoke the next morning. The little girl was quite frightened when she saw the great pile of shaggy wolves, but the Tin Woodman told her all. She thanked him for saving them and sat down to breakfast, after which they started again upon their journey. Now, this same morning, the wicked witch, came to the door of her castle and looked out with her one eye that could see far off. She saw all her wolves lying dead, and the travelers still traveling, and the strangers still traveling through her country. This made her angrier than before, and she blew her silver whistle twice. Straightway, a great flock of wild crows came flying toward her, enough to darken the sky. And the wicked witch said to the King Crow, "Fly at once to the strangers, peck out their eyes and tear them to pieces." The wild crows flew in one great flock toward Dorothy and her companions. When the little girl saw them coming, she was afraid. But the Scarecrow said, "This is my battle, so lie down beside me and you will not be harmed." So they all lay upon the ground except the Scarecrow, and he stood up and stretched out his arms. And when the crows saw him, they were frightened, as these birds always are by scarecrows.
and did not come any nearer. But the King Crow said, "It is only a stuffed man. I will peck his eyes out." The King Crow flew at the Scarecrow, who caught it by the head and twisted its neck until it died. And then another crow flew at him, and the Scarecrow twisted its neck also. There were 40 crows, and 40 times the Scarecrow twisted a neck, until at last all were lying dead beside him. Then he called to his companions to rise, and again they went upon their journey. When the Wicked Witch looked out again and saw all her crows lying in a heap, she got into a terrible rage and blew 3 times upon her silver whistle. Forthwith there was heard a great buzzing in the air, and a swarm of black bees came flying toward her. "Go to the strangers and sting them to death," commanded the witch. And the bees flew rapidly until they came to where Dorothy and her friends were walking. But the woodman had seen them coming, and the Scarecrow had decided what to do. "Take out my straw and scatter it over the little girl and the dog and lion," he said to the woodman, "and the bees cannot sting them." This the woodman did, and as Dorothy lay close beside the lion and held Toto in her arms, the straw covered them entirely. The bees came and found no one but the woodman to sting, so they flew at him and broke off all their stings against the tin without hurting the woodman at all. As bees cannot live when their stings are broken, that was the end of the black bees, and they lay scattered thick about the woodman like little heaps of fine coal. Then Dorothy and the lion got up, and the girl helped the Tin Woodman put the straw back into the Scarecrow again until he was as good as ever. So they started upon their journey once more. The Wicked Witch was so angry when she saw her black bees in little heaps of fine coal that she stamped her foot and tore her hair and gnashed her teeth. And then she called a dozen of her slaves, who were the Winkies, and gave them sharp spears, telling them to go to the strangers and destroy them. The Winkies were not a brave people, but they had to do as they were told. So they marched away until they came near Dorothy. Then the lion gave a great roar and sprang towards them, and the poor Winkies were so frightened that they ran back as fast as they could. When they returned to the castle, the Wicked Witch beat them well with a strap and sent them back to their work, after which she sat down to think what she should do next. She could not understand how all her plans to destroy these strangers had failed. But she was a powerful witch, as well as a wicked one. And she soon made up her mind how to act. There was, in her cupboard, a golden cap with a circle of diamonds and rubies running round it. This golden cap
had a charm. Whoever owned it could call 3 times upon the winged monkeys, who would obey any order they were given. But no person could command these strange creatures more than 3 times. Twice already, the wicked witch had used the charm of the cap. Once was when she made the Winkies her slaves, and she set herself to rule over their country. The winged monkeys had helped her do this. The second time was when she had fought against the Great Oz himself and driven him out of the land of the West. The winged monkeys had also helped her in doing this. Only once more could she use this golden cap, for which reason she did not like to do so until all her other powers were exhausted. But now that her fierce wolves and her wild crows and her stinging bees were gone, and her slaves had been scared away by the cowardly lion, she saw there was only one way left to destroy Dorothy and her friends. So, the wicked witch took the golden cap from her cupboard and placed it upon her head. Then she stood upon her left foot and said slowly, "Epe, hepe, kake." Next, she stood upon her right foot and said, "Hilo, holo, hello." After this, she stood upon both feet and cried out in a loud voice, "Zizi, Zuzi, Zeek." Now the charm began to work. The sky was darkened, and a low rumbling sound was heard in the air. There was a rushing of many wings, a great chattering and laughing, and the sun came out of the dark sky to show the wicked witch surrounded by a crowd of monkeys, each with a pair of immense and powerful wings on his shoulders. One, much bigger than the others, seemed to be their leader. He flew close to the witch and said, "You have called us for the 3rd and last time. What do you command?" "Go to the strangers who are within my land and destroy them all except for the lion," said the wicked witch. "Bring that beast to me, for I have a mind to harness him like a horse and make him work." "Your commands shall be obeyed," said the leader. Then, with a great deal of chattering and noise, the winged monkeys flew away to the place where Dorothy and her friends were walking. Some of the monkeys seized the Tin Woodman and carried him through the air until they were over a country thickly covered in sharp rocks. Here, they dropped the poor woodman, who fell a great distance to the rocks, where he lay so battered and dented that he could neither move nor groan. Others of the monkeys caught the scarecrow, and with their long fingers pulled all of the straw out of his clothes and head. They made his hat and boots and clothes into a small bundle and threw it into the top branches of a tall tree.
The remaining monkeys threw pieces of stout rope around the lion and wound many coils about his body and head and legs until he was unable to bite or scratch or struggle in any way. Then they lifted him up and flew away with him to the witch's castle, where he was placed in a small yard with a high iron fence around it so that he could not escape. But Dorothy they did not harm at all. She stood, with Toto in her arms, watching the sad fate of her comrades and thinking it would soon be her turn. The leader of the winged monkeys flew up to her, his long, hairy arms stretched out, and his ugly face grinning terribly. But he saw the mark of the good witch's kiss upon her forehead and stopped short, motioning the others not to touch her. "We dare not harm this little girl," he said to them, "for she is protected by the power of good. Of good. And that is greater than the power of evil. All we can do is to carry her to the castle of the wicked witch and leave her there." So, carefully and gently, they lifted Dorothy in their arms and carried her swiftly through the air until they came to the castle, where they set her down upon the front doorstep. Then the leaders said to the witch, "We have obeyed you as far as we were able. The Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow are destroyed, and the lion is tied up in your yard. The little girl we dare not harm, nor the dog she carries in her arm. Your power over our band is now ended, and you will never see us again." Then all the winged monkeys, with much laughing and chattering and noise, flew into the air and were soon out of sight. The wicked witch was both surprised and worried when she saw the mark on Dorothy's forehead. For she knew well that neither the winged monkeys nor she herself dare hurt the girl in any way. She looked down at Dorothy's feet and, seeing the silver shoes, began to tremble with fear, for she knew what a powerful charm belonged to them. At first, the witch was tempted to run away from Dorothy, but she happened to look into the child's eyes and saw how simple the soul was behind them, and that the girl did not know of the wonderful power the silver shoes gave her. So the wicked witch laughed to herself and thought, "I can still make her my slave, for she does not know how to use her power." Then she said to Dorothy, harshly and severely, "Come with me and see that you mind everything I tell you, for if you do not, I will make an end of you. And as I did of the Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow." Dorothy followed her through many of the beautiful rooms in her castle until they came to the kitchen, where the witch bade her clean the pots and kettles and sweep the floor and keep the fire fed with wood. Dorothy went to work meekly, with her mind made up to work as hard as she could, for she was glad the wicked witch had decided not to kill her.
with Dorothy hard at work. The witch thought she would go into the courtyard and harness the cowardly lion like a horse. It would amuse her, she was sure, to make him draw her chariot whenever she wished to go to drive. But as she opened the gate, the lion gave a loud roar and bounded at her so fiercely that the witch was afraid, and ran out and shut the gate again. "If I cannot harness you," said the witch to the lion, speaking through the bars of the gate, "I can starve you. You shall have nothing to eat until you do as I wish." So, after that, she took no food to the imprisoned lion. But every day she came to the gate at noon and asked, "Are you ready to be harnessed like a horse?" And the lion would answer,
"No. If you come into this yard, I will bite you."
The reason the lion did not have to do as the witch wished was that every night, while the woman was asleep, Dorothy carried him food from the cupboard. After he had eaten, he would lie down on his bed of straw, and Dorothy would lie beside him and put her head on his soft, shaggy mane while they talked of their troubles and tried to plan some way to escape. But they could find no way to get out of the castle, for it was constantly guarded by the yellow Winkies, who were the slaves of the Wicked Witch, and too afraid of her not to do as she told them. The girl had to work hard during the day, and often the witch threatened to beat her with the same old umbrella she always carried in her hand. But, in truth, she did not dare strike Dorothy because of the mark upon her forehead. The child did not know this, and was full of fear for herself and Toto. Once, the witch struck Toto a blow with her umbrella, and the brave little dog flew at her and bit her leg in return. The witch did not bleed where she was bitten, for she was so wicked that the blood in her had dried up many years before. Dorothy's life became very sad as she grew to understand that it would be harder than ever to get back to Kansas and Aunt Em again. Sometimes she would cry bitterly for hours with Toto sitting at her feet, looking into her face, whining dismally to show how sorry he was for his little mistress. Toto did not really care whether he was in Kansas or the land of Oz, so long as Dorothy was with him. But he knew the little girl was unhappy, and that made him unhappy too. Now, the Wicked Witch had a great longing to have for her own the silver shoes which the girl always wore. Her bees and her crows and her wolves were lying in heaps and drying up, and she had used up all the power of the golden cap. But if she could only get hold of the silver shoes, they would give her more power than all the things she had lost. She watched Dorothy carefully to see if she ever took off her shoes, thinking she might be able to steal them. But the child was so proud of her pretty shoes that she never took them off except at night, and when she took her bath. The witch was too much afraid of the dark to dare go in Dorothy's room at night to take the shoes, and her dread of water was greater than her fear of dark. So she never came near Dorothy when Dorothy was bathing. Indeed, The old witch never touched water, nor ever let water touch her in any way. But the wicked creature was very cunning, and she finally thought of a trick that would give her what she wanted. She placed a bar of iron in the middle of the kitchen floor, and then by her magic arts, made the iron invisible to human eyes. So that when Dorothy walked across the floor, she stumbled over the bar, not being able to see it, and fell at full length. She was not much hurt, but in her fall, one of the silver shoes came off, and before she could reach it, the witch had snatched it away and put it on her own skinny foot. The wicked woman was greatly pleased with the success of her trick, for as long as she had one of the shoes, she owned half the power of their charm, and Dorothy could not use it against her, even had she known how to do so. The little girl, seeing she had lost one of her pretty shoes, grew angry and said to the witch,
"Give me back my shoe!"
"I will not," retorted the witch, "for it is my shoe now and not yours."
"You are a wicked creature!"
cried Dorothy.
"You have no right to take my shoe from me."
"I shall keep it just the same," said the witch, laughing at her. "And someday I shall get the other one from you too." This made Dorothy so very angry that she picked up the bucket of water that stood near and dashed it over the witch, wetting her from head to foot. Instantly, the wicked woman gave a loud cry of fear. And then, as Dorothy looked at her in wonder, the witch began to shrink and fall away.
"See what you have done!"
she screamed.
"In a minute, I shall melt away." "I'm very sorry indeed,"
said Dorothy, who was truly frightened to see the witch actually melting away like brown sugar before her very eyes.
"Didn't you know the water would be the end of me?"
asked the witch in a wailing, despairing voice.
"Of course not,"
answered Dorothy.
"How should I?"
"Well, in a few minutes, I shall be all melted, and you will have the castle to yourself. I have been wicked in my day, but I never thought a little girl like you would ever be able to melt me and end my wicked deeds. Look out! Here I go!" With these words, the witch fell down in a brown, melted, shapeless mass and began to spread over the clean boards of the kitchen floor. Seeing that she really had melted away to nothing, Dorothy drew another bucket of water and threw it over the mess. She then swept it all out the door. After picking out the silver shoe, which was all that was left of the old woman, she cleaned and dried it with a cloth and put it on her foot again. Then, being at last free to do as she chose, she ran out to the courtyard to tell the lion that the Wicked Witch of the West had come to an end, and that they were no longer prisoners in a strange land. That was the end of chapter 12. Yes, we did go over our 2-hour stream limit. Thank you so much to our TikTok viewers for getting us to 10K. Thank you so much for liking the stream. I've heard somewhere that however many likes the stream has is how much the TikTok algorithm pushes the live stream. So the more that you guys like the stream, the more the stream will be visible on the For You page for other people. So by liking the content, you're giving someone the opportunity to listen along. A special thank you to our Twitch viewers and our wonderful fishies who are listening along. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your night with me. Thank you for letting me read to you. I hope that I have helped you feel peaceful, relax, and if you've fallen asleep, I hope that you are having the sweetest dreams. Hi, Talbot. Hi, I love good live streams. Hello, Shattered. Yes, ASMR Mans. Hi, Perla. Hi, J-Dog. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Pro Edits. Thank you guys so much for being here. Also, Perla, I've been meaning to send you a message, but I might be able to get to your book soon. So I just wanted to touch base again about your book. So I cannot wait. I'm so excited. But we are at the end of our stream. So I will remind you all that I appreciate you. And if you're not already in the Discord server, I highly recommend joining the Discord server. You can choose what you're notified for, whether you want to be notified when I'm streaming, when I post videos, or when we have special events, like this weekend. We will be doing a movie night on Sunday. Thank you, Mingo. You're so sweet. Thank you for all of the kisses, ASMR Mans. Can't wait to hear you read it. I can't wait to read it. I might need a pronunciation guide, but like I said, I will send you a message. If any of you think you are already in the Discord server, please double check. If you are in Twitch, you can just say the word Discord and you'll get the Discord link. Otherwise, you can check it out in any of my links provided. If you were previously in the Discord server and you realized you do not have permissions anymore, or you are not in the Discord server, it is because we made security changes and you have been removed. It is not a personal vendetta. You are not in trouble. Just rejoin the server and answer the security questions and you'll get access again. If you are watching on Twitch, we are going to raid out. So, this is the part where we say our good nights, our goodbyes, and our see you tomorrows. I will be back again tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. And if you are in the Discord server, you will get notified whenever I go live. If you miss me while I'm gone, thank you. But you can also check out more of my content on YouTube. I have many, many hours of my reading available for you. And we posted a new video today that you can check out. We are going to be raiding out on Twitch, So if you could please join us, be sure that you behave appropriately and represent this community well. Also, copy the raid message, whichever one you'd like to copy. And until tomorrow, please drink your water, eat your food, be kind to yourself and others, and have a good night. Bye-bye.